Welcome to the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast, Season 5. This podcast is for and about people getting ready for their first ever pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago in Spain, France, and Portugal. With your host, Camino guide and longtime pilgrim, Nancy Reynolds of the Camino Experience. Ready for another After the Camino story? I've got you covered. Hi, this is Nancy, and this week you will be hearing how things went for Pilgrim Roger, who you met in Season 4, Episode 15. You may remember that Roger's family suggested he walk the Camino as a way to grieve and heal from the unexpected and devastating loss of his wife. He had big plans, bigger even than the 800-kilometer Camino Francés. Roger had also planned to visit Fatima in Portugal and then to walk from the pilgrimage site in Lourdes, France, back to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. But a fall on his second day on the trail, yes, day 2, derailed his plans and changed the course of his pilgrimage. We will get to Roger in just a moment, but first, I want to say a big thank you to all my listeners for tuning in week after week. I am here because of you. And I also want to give an extra warm welcome to anyone tuning into the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast for the first time. In case we are meeting for the first time, let me introduce myself and share just a little bit about my Camino experience. I am a longtime pilgrim and Camino Francés guide who loves to support people in getting started on their first ever Camino journey. I've been walking the Francés route since 2005, helping pilgrims get started since 2013, and in September this year, I led my 15th group from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. What a blessing to be with pilgrims as they plan and prepare for their pilgrimages, and then to bear witness to their first steps of this life-changing experience. If you would like to find out how to get your pilgrimage on the Camino Francés route off on the best start possible, you can stop by my website, thecaminoexperience.com. And if you are tuning in for the first time and you discover you are inspired to walk the Camino de Santiago, I'd like to direct you back to Season 1 of this podcast. In Season 1, I walk you through your first handful of questions about walking the Camino, the questions you need to answer before you can begin preparing for your pilgrimage. What is it? When is the best time to go? How long does it take? Where do pilgrims eat and sleep? Who do you go with? And how much does it cost? And interspersed with the long answers to these questions are stories of other first-time pilgrims who are right where you are, wondering if you can do this, if you can become a pilgrim on the road to Santiago de Compostela. Season 1, that's the place to be. I do love hearing from my listeners, so if you'd like to say hello or if you'd like to share your Camino plans with me, you can reach me at nancy@thecaminoexperience.com. Okay, shall we hear from Roger now? Here we go. Roger, hi. Thank you for coming back on the podcast. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for I've been kind of looking forward to this, even in somewhat of a bit of a dread, but
Oh, how come a dread?
well, plans versus reality.
Oh, yeah. That seems to be this theme of Season 5 of the podcast as I'm hearing people's stories about their experiences, especially with people who I talked to before they went. And then they come back and they go, okay, so this is what actually happened. And often it's quite different than what we had planned. And I think that is such an important part of the Camino experience, is to be aware that that could happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to hear firsthand how your experience went. We talked with you before your trip and we learned some things about what your plans were. Now we're going to find out what actually happened. So would you start by putting the pin in the map? Let us know where you started, where you finished, and how much time you took on the trail.
I started on June 22nd in St. John, and I made it to Santiago 43 days later.
43 days later.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a big trip. How does that compare to what you had planned?
My plan was to leave St. John, go to Santiago, from there go down to Fatima, and then from there go to Lourdes and walk from Lourdes back to St. John.
Okay.
But things got in the way.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's find out what got in the way because it sounds like you did not make it to Fatima and you did not make it to Lourdes.
I did not make it to Lourdes.
Okay. All right. So what happened? Share with us, if you would, your first few days on the trail. How did that go?
On the first day, the innkeeper, I guess, suggested that I probably should not, because of the time of year, I should not try to do Lourdes to St. John because of the time of year and the few resources that are available there. And then less than 48 hours later, the decision was kind of taken out of my hands as it was raining as we left Orson. And I've inadvertently, because of some confusion going on with a lost grandfather, I decided to take the trail that said was well marked, and it turned out that was the forest trail.
Okay. So let's make sure people know where that was. I believe that was you get to the very top and you're about to begin your descent into Roncesvalles, and there are two choices. One is along the road and the other is through the forest. Is that the spot you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so you took the forest trail. How'd that go?
Badly.
Oh dear.
I fell and rolled down the hill. I thought I did a very nice job of recovery. And of course, because it was June, as you had said, there were very few people out there, and there was no one there on the forest trail because there aren't that many idiots out there.
Okay, no name calling.
Yeah. So,
You know what, Roger, I just want to say it is actually a little tricky to figure out which is which and where you're supposed to go. It's marked, but if you don't actually get to right where the trail markers are, take the time to look up and read them and know which way to go, it can be very tricky to figure that out.
and that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because there was some confusion going on. And so I just saw the sign that said this way. So I went that way, thinking it wasn't the forest trail because they would say, don't go here. This is the forest trail, the dreaded forest trail. And it doesn't say that. It says, come this way.
Well, and see, that's what's really important is when you're in Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port, the pilgrim's office shows you a map, shows you photos, says big X, don't go this way, go this way. They even go so far as to say right is life and left is death, which I think is a little dramatic. And then you get there and there's nothing that matches what they said. There's nothing that says forest trail death, not forest trail life. There's nothing like that. And so a lot of pilgrims aren't even sure they're at that decision point.
Yeah. Yeah. And the pilgrim's offices, they're great.
They are.
They're volunteers. So the description you just made isn't what happened. It made. So at the end of the day, if I had, I gained the experience, unfortunately, right there is slow down when you go in a fork in the road and you're on the trail, slow down.
Yeah.
Good look. Don't just jump.
Yeah, especially that point when you're at the highest point, it's the point where you can see into Spain and you can see Burguete in the distance, and you can see how high up you are and that you are about to nosedive down into the Spanish side of things.
Yeah. So I picked up a hip injury that is just with physical therapy since I got back. It's just beginning to get better and I can walk.
Okay, how long have you been back?
Since August 13th.
Okay, and we are recording this on November 8th. So we're talking about a 3-month recovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the road to recovery now, whereas the physical therapy had not been helping to this point.
Oh man. So let's think about this. You got injured in early June and you kept walking.
Yep.
How'd that go?
Well, my doctor asked me how that went when I got back. He said, what? So you fell. What did you do? I said, I got up and walked 450 miles.
Okay, he says casually.
Yeah. Then he asked, how come, did I see a doctor? And I said, no, because the doctor would have told me to go home and I wasn't going to do that. So there wasn't really a point.
Okay. Okay, so going home wasn't an option for you. What was going on in your mind when you were at that point?
I just wanted to do it. I felt that I needed the time. And quite honestly, the injury slowed me from 3.1 miles an hour, which is what I was walking before. And that was a comfortable, I could do 4, but I liked 3.
Mhm.
It was just the right pace for me. I didn't feel like I was ahead of myself. I could breathe, all those good things. I went down to trying to achieve 1.9 miles an hour.
That's a different walk then, isn't it?
Totally different walk,
Yeah.
totally different. Everybody passes you, which is great. I met a lot more people than I
Mm.
would have if I'd been walking fast because it was a week or so before I passed anyone.
Mm.
And that gentleman, we stayed together for quite a while till his injuries were so bad that he had to go home. And then finally, I met another gentleman I passed, and we stayed together. That family and I stayed together for quite a while, several, I mean, over a week, well over a week. Yeah. And because he was walking slow, I was walking slow, and we made a good team.
And that's how we come together with people when we're at the same pace or we are doing the same distances each day and we find them at the end. Yeah. So that's how those relationships form. Now, I am still quite interested about the idea that going home wasn't an option. And I remember you had a fairly significant reason for walking the Camino. Would you mind reminding us what that
Sure.
was?
My wife passed away last year, um, and it was very hard. So
Yeah. And unexpected, if I remember
my
correctly.
family suggested that I needed some time to work on that, work through that, and they suggested the Camino. So my son and I sat down and we watched a copy of the way, and he asked me to go with him, and then of course his work-life balance. So he joined me in Saria.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So he joined me for the last five days and stayed with me in spite of his being younger and in better condition. He stayed with me the whole way. And the last couple of days, he carried my day bag with me. I couldn't even carry my day bag. So
What a blessing to have that time with your son.
yeah, and it was great that he stayed with me and helped me step by step.
Yeah. So I'm curious how it went in terms of your reason for going. Did that take you through the journey? Did that was that something that you did spend time dwelling on?
I talked to people about the path, and really it became a metaphor. The physical path, the trail became a metaphor for my life of, trying to, you got to push through, you got to keep walking. The path doesn't walk itself.
Mhm.
Those are all metaphors for, one step at a time. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how many mountains I climbed. One more step
Yeah.
up the hill, made it to the top. I do have a favor though, for all these people who put rocks on things,
Yeah.
they could like put them so they makes a bench at the top of a hill. That would be excellent.
That's what we need. We need more benches on the Camino.
If they'd be right, it'd be nice if the Camino provided benches at the top of the hills.
That's it.
Sometimes they
That's
do,
it.
and they're fabulous.
Right, right. I want them halfway up so that I can take a break and contemplate what the heck I'm doing.
You do have to, yeah. So it really did, the walk and the path really did help me with that. And part of it was, as you said, on the first podcast, that in June, July, and they're not, some days there was nobody out there.
Well, that's a surprise because we have this image of summer being the super busy times. What did you encounter? Let's start all the way in Saint Jean.
There were a few of us out there. But we kind of made sure, it was almost like every day you'd make sure that the people you saw them again. It's like you were taking inventory. If somebody's missing,
There were few enough that you would notice.
yeah, yeah, you would, yeah. And I'd walk along. I walked with a gentleman from England. He was really injured, and he eventually went home. I wore a Tilly brand hat, the big broad. This looks silly, but in July, it worked
You
out
need
really
it.
well. And people would walk up to me knowing that I was connected to the Brit, and asked me where Terry was and how he was doing, because he was taking breaks. He was walking about 1 mile an hour
Oh, wow. Okay, that's not moving very fast.
out of the Pyrenees pulled a calf muscle.
Mm.
And calf muscle injuries were pretty common as you're coming out of the Pyrenees. They were fairly common. I would say besides blisters, it was probably the number two thing that caused people to come off.
Yeah. Calf injuries, tendonitis, all of those, when your body is not prepared for the physical rigors of walking the Camino, injuries can become very common. Yeah. So curious about your injury. Aside from slowing you down, what did that do to the experience?
Oh, just, well, it slows you down, and then the pain was, I mean, I'd wind up just screaming out. It was and has been, it's a nerve injury. I crushed a nerve in my
Oof.
hip. And then you meet somebody like the Brit, or you hear the story about the lady with the walker. It is truly about the time you begin to feel sorry for yourself, you begin to hear the analogy of the man complaining about no shoes meets the man with no feet. There's so many people you meet. I mean, I'm crawling along. I'm doing okay. I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
And then you meet somebody that's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And there are so many of those people out there. They are pushing through insurmountable.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. What is it that has us persevere and push through those injuries to keep going? What's in there?
For me personally, I can't speak for everybody. I mean, sometimes it's drive, like the Brit. Now I understand how England conquered the world. They
Okay.
did it with men like him.
Uh-huh.
For me, it was a combination of every time I thought this is it, I can't go any further. I would get a Facebook post, and a text from somebody telling me I'm doing great and I'm going to make it.
Ah,
Okay, I guess I'm going to make it.
wow.
I know it's odd, but it did seem like they got that when I needed it from
Interesting.
various people, even the people I was walking with. You bolster each other up and try to make sure everybody's okay. So
That is such a key component of it. How do you get up the mountain? Together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Well, there was one that, well, I think it was mentioned earlier in another podcast just recently, is where the 12% grade with the
Mhm.
18% downgrade.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of this, me and a fellow from a grandfather from Louisiana. We tagged up, and he would walk behind me on the hill, and I would be in front of him, and then he would go down the hill faster than I was willing to go. My experience with downhills wasn't that great, so
Yeah, I bet you were a little cautious after that fall.
I'm pulling him along, and
By the way, that descent through the forest in parts is a 25% grade. It's steep.
they should mark that with like an informed consent form.
Right. Release of liability, all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's not good.
Especially when it's wet.
Yeah, especially if it's raining. It was
Mhm.
not good.
Yeah.
It's slippery as all get out.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about not taking pulls and you're over a certain age, yeah, well, think that over.
Very useful
I was
tools.
first counting the number of times they saved me as I kind of teetered along.
Uh-huh.
Forget it.
Well, and once you're injured, you need them for balance. So
Yeah,
first you want them to prevent the injuries and keep you upright. But then once you're injured, you really do need that additional stability for balance.
yeah, my arms got really strong.
Uh-huh.
My forearms became
Yeah.
very strong and sore at the end of every day
Interesting.
because I'm using these things, not more of canes.
Canes and crutches there.
Yeah, but bless their little hearts, they didn't get home, but
They carried you. So this isn't so much of a personal question, but just sort of a general philosophical question. How would you weigh in on the wisdom of walking on an injury? It's taken you 3 months to start to feel some recovery. What if that had been permanent, or what if it is permanent?
part of it may be permanent, but I've had bad back all my life, all my adult life. So I'm not real concerned about that. It's just another one. It's just another one.
It's a battle scar.
For me, I don't regret going at all. While we were walking, I was walking with grandparents, and they had their 14-year-old grandson with them.
Oh,
Yeah, he was a trooper. He never complained. It's like he just kept marching along. They asked me if I'd come back next year because they have six grandkids and this is the oldest one. So I'm like, six?
Six times? What are you, crazy?
But they asked me if I'd come back next year and I said, no. Like, let me think this over. No.
No.
But now I'm like, I don't think I'd go back for the whole thing. But I would certainly, consider going back for a section. It was extremely valuable, I thought. The reflection, the period of time. I thought it was great. I've got a picture of where the trail just goes forever
Yes.
out of the
Yes.
horizon, and then there's no one on it.
Mm. Let's talk about that for a few more minutes here. So in June and July especially, is such a quiet time. And people think it's going to be crazy and they're going to be racing to get beds every day. What was your experience finding accommodations? How did you do it?
Well, whenever I walked completely alone, I would just walk in and ask for a bed.
Okay.
I mean, literally, it was like there's one where I walked in this really nice town, and Albergue had a nice sign, and I said, you know what, I'm done. I mean, 10 minutes before, it hadn't occurred to me that I'm going to quit for the day, but it's getting to be one-ish, whatever, and I'm like, I'm done for the day. I just walked
Okay.
in and got a bed, and it's like, yeah, they have a bed.
And was that your experience for most of the way?
Yep, even in Saria. Yeah.
Okay. So for the final 100 kilometers, Saria to Santiago, even then in July.
Well, I arranged it so that my son, when he joined me for the last 5 days, he was responsible for accommodations. So he had booked everything from Saria in. Now I arrived
Okay.
early, so I had to find my own place, but
Mhm.
it was no issue.
Okay.
The only ones that were full were the big albergues, like the monastery.
Uh-huh.
They were full because of the tour groups.
Okay.
But I had a friend, Christopher, out of Portugal. He stayed in an albergue right near the Saria sign
Uh-huh.
and by himself,
Okay.
nobody else there. I stayed in a pension in some town along the way, all by myself. There was no one there, including the landlord wasn't there. It was one of those where you dial up and on WhatsApp and they give you a code.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was zero problem. Now, part of that might have been because the year before, 2023, the temperatures were in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2024, they were in the 80s. And
Oh, nearly pleasant.
I mean, 1 o'clock, they take the wind in. There's a reason they do siestas.
Yes. Yes. And
I mean,
it's timed when it is. Yeah.
yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And it's hot and uncomfortable, but it's not like the 100-degree stuff. And I
Okay.
wonder if that didn't scare people off.
You know what, though? This is the pattern. And this is the surprise is that July is usually quite slow. I remember talking with a friend who runs an albergue in Zubiri, which is usually people's second or third night on the trail. And she closed a couple nights in July. That was 2 years ago. And it wasn't because of the post pandemic, it was because there was no one there. And that was normal for July.
Yeah.
In terms of panicking about finding a bed, the summer is going to be so busy. Not really. Now,
No,
August, I think it does begin to get busy, middle of August in Saint Jean and all of August, Saria to Santiago. But it's such a great reminder not to panic about finding a bed until you know how busy it is. And you don't know that until you get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
We did see some albergues that were closed.
Because there are not enough pilgrims.
Yeah, well, quite honestly, if I was running one, which bless those people,
For sure.
such hard work,
Yep.
but I'd close.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
close and go on vacation.
Yeah. So what did you think about staying in the albergues? How was that experience for you?
That was easy. It was really, I mean, you follow in this very familiar pattern, as you've said many times, they know what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, you're a pilgrim. Let's see, you need to put your sticks, your boots, and here's a sheet for your bed. Here's the laundry. Here's what dinner is, and if there's a mass, if there's a church available, here's the story on the church, and there's the laundry over there. Boom.
They know what you need.
They know what you need.
Yep.
I mean, I practiced Duolingo, and as one innkeeper told me, she said, "Oh, you're American? You'll never learn."
Oh,
She was very, I was like,
straight to the point.
it is hilarious. I mean, it was
You know
hilarious.
what, though? I want to commend you for the effort because unfortunately, many people don't even try. And I think that really, I think they really miss out on the experience by not having at least a few phrases to do the pleasantries. Yeah.
Right, but it's pretty pathetic. But it usually provides a source of entertainment.
We need that. It's a hard walk.
That whole thing was good. Yeah, that's the answer to that.
All right. So you said that you might consider going back to walk a section. Any ideas what section that might be?
The grandparents I was with, we had to skip a section. The young boy he was wearing braces, 14 years old. Baby tooth pops out.
Oh dear.
He's trapped in the brace.
Oh no. So it's out of his gum, but hanging in the braces?
Yeah.
Well, that's a picture. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, his favorite food group is hard French bread. So it's 6:30 Saturday morning. We're in this town outside Lyon, and at 6:30 looking for the dentist, and found the dentist off. It turns out not open.
Not open at 6:30 on a Saturday morning. How weird.
What a shocker! Yeah. And so and the bus is on Tuesday, and the dentist office may or may not open on Monday because it's the first day of the running of the bulls. So he might be there, but he might be in Peploma.
Okay. That's the whole story.
And then the civil guard came by, and they came by again, and then they spent an hour connecting to a dentist in Lyon to their house called her house to make sure she was going to be there at 9 o'clock. And then the innkeeper that was helping the civil guard with all that became our taxi and drove us to Lyon. And 5 minutes later, we were back on the street.
Isn't that something how everybody just came together to get that worked out?
Well, yeah. And, I saw that over and over. The Spanish people help so much. I mean, like there was one event I wound up dehydrated and laying in the street in Puerto Marino.
Hang on. Don't rush past that. That's a picture in my mind now. What happened there?
Yeah, my son's taking a picture of the sign, the Puerto Marino sign. And he turns around, and I'm laying, instead of sitting in the street, I'm laying in the street.
You're laying in the street, dehydrated.
And because I'm drinking water, but I'm obviously not drinking enough.
Uh-huh.
But the innkeeper, instead of just going, well, here it is, it's around the corner, down the street, and over the block, she takes us till finally she can see the building, and then tells us which building it is.
What was that for? Was that for the clinic?
That was the medical clinic.
Medical clinic. Okay, so she walked you there.
I walked most of the way, and this is during check-in time. There's, this is her rush hour, right?
Uh-huh.
Is she still wanting to help to make sure that she takes care of me? And I met a very nice Spanish doctor woman. She was very nice, not very happy with me.
Why?
She was unhappy with, another pilgrim that is dehydrated.
Oh my gosh, you guys need to learn. Got to keep an eye on all of you.
And there was no charge for the visit. So it worked out, Yeah, so the Spanish people are so great. I mean, I walked up to one lady, we were talking about the Spanish people as we're walking, and I said, watch this. Because I said, no, they're all great. They just have opportunity. And so I walk up to this one woman, she's walking towards us, and it looks like she's a little disgruntled, not smiling. And I point with my sticks like we all do and go, this way. And she instantly begins to smile and make sure that, yes, this is the way to go. And I knew that, but, I was trying to exercise a point, and she not just pointed, yes, it is. Yes, that's that way on this side of the street. They go out of their way to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah.
One time I felt a little uneasy, but it was just me being American, I guess. Nothing happened. I just looked at a bunch of people and went, oh, I'm a little concerned. There was nothing to be concerned about.
Okay. So there were some people that you thought maybe there was a safety concern or something?
A little, but turned out to be completely my imagination.
Probably an automatic response to something that happened in the past or something you saw in a movie. And when you come to your senses, you realize they're just people.
Yeah, everybody was great. Everybody was super helpful, and they all do know what you need.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting to see a lot of trinkets and trash being sold along the way.
Touristy stuff.
And none of that's being done because, of course, who wants to carry it?
Yeah, exactly.
You punched out a list of 4 best pizza places on the trail. So I find one. I'm like, this is great. This is wonderful. It's great. It's 9 a.m. They open at 5. On we go.
Okay. Well, and that's the thing about planning or scheduling. You can't. You can know that something great's coming up ahead, but if you're not going to be there at the right time, you just wave and walk on by.
Yeah, that's all you can do. So you just keep
Yeah.
moving. So
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. So you said that you walked 43 days in total from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago. How did that feel for the amount of time that you took? Was that the right amount of time? Too fast, too slow?
Part of it was because I had to land with Phil, my son.
Right.
When I fell, I took a 0 day, which I think was pretty much a waste of time. I think I almost walked around the village almost as much as I would have walked if I just walked. And then I got concerned that if I stopped, I may not be able to keep going.
Okay.
I never took another day.
Okay. Because at that point, you didn't know what you had done. You just knew
Right.
you had injured yourself and it was painful,
Yeah.
but you didn't know what it was.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to keep on going.
Good
And then I
grief.
wind up and I get there 3 days before he does.
Oh,
Excuse me,
okay.
I get there Thursday. He arrives Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay. What'd you do in Saria for 2 days?
had pizza, walked around. Apparently didn't drink enough water. That
Yeah.
was the next day. Not a whole lot. The town's nice, but there wasn't a whole lot. Talked to other pilgrims that kind of like just sat around that one little alleyway you come up and
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh, there's Karen from Australia. There's Christopher from Portugal via France. There's
So you were the welcome team.
yeah, part of it. Yeah, it was part of it was just reconnecting to some of the people I'd seen because I lost connection uh, to everybody I started with in Orson. I completely lost.
Yeah, they probably got ahead of you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I saw one couple from Portland of all places, which is where I'm from. I saw them because they were slow pacing. They had time. They were no hurry. They took extra days, like many extra days. So I
Okay.
saw them, but other than that, I never saw anybody that I started with. Because one is
Hmm.
I took a 0 day right away, so that
Yeah.
means they're a day ahead of me. And the other, is I was losing a day every third or fourth day.
Okay. Okay. But you did say that you met a lot of people, probably more people than you would have if you'd kept the original pace. So what was that experience like?
That was great. I mean, that was the highlight. I mean, I think the injury kind of does reflect some things that happen. You just go along and, well, this is a quote that I picked up along the trail up in the Pyrenees. I heard it 2 or 3 times. It's from the great American philosopher, Mike Tyson.
Uh-huh.
That is, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I've experienced that, and you just keep going, and it turns out some things are better that way. I slowed down and paid more attention to what was going on around me because I was being passed by everybody. Just because they go faster doesn't mean they go further.
Mm.
They get off the trail sooner, so their laundry is done first. But there they are.
That's such a great point. That's
Yeah,
such a great point. You'll be covering the same distance each day, just maybe not in the same number of hours.
yeah, yeah. And so I think that happened a lot. And some of it's because, I've had friends that will say, I want to do 20 kilometers a day. Well, isn't that nice? I hope the villages line up that way, but I can guarantee you they don't.
They don't. You can average 20 kilometers per day, but it's more likely going to be 17.5 or 21.3. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like in one case, the best example I had, one day we either walked 15 or we walked 32.
Uh-huh.
There was nothing in between.
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, I can do 15 and I can do 17.
Yeah.
Can't do 32.
32 isn't happening this
Yeah,
time.
not happening. So we're doing a short day today, and that's all you can do.
I really appreciate this because it helps to illustrate the reality of what it is to be on the Camino, that it
Yeah.
isn't this cut and dried. It's not this cookie cutter plan. It's something very fluid that happens differently for everybody.
Yeah. The reality of it is different than what you planned, but let that happen.
Yeah. So I don't think you said what section you would go back and walk.
You noticed that.
I did.
I I would do Paploma to Burgos again.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I would like to finish the end of the Maseka. I thought that was really pretty. It reminds me of Eastern Washington, East in the U.S.
Yeah.
I swear I could take pictures of Spain and Eastern Washington and say, okay, guess.
Right. Where are we? And everyone will
Yeah,
get, half the people will get it wrong.
rolling hills with mountains in the background and acres and acres and acres of wheat.
Yeah. There we go. Great. Now, when you were there June, July. Was it still green or was it more of a earth tone palette?
At first, the Pyrenees was green, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was the dairy country and that area. And then you got into the wheat section, and then you got into the grapes,
Yeah.
and the villages look a little nicer because most winery areas do.
Yeah. More prosperous
And
produce.
then you
Yeah.
got into some sunflowers and some wheat. But the wheat, because you're walking along, you're right next to it, you can tell that it's not the same. It's wheat, or maybe it's barley. I don't.
Barley. A lot of it is barley. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the dry goods change, but
Yeah.
they are much the same. So
Yeah. Was
you
it
get
brown
back
or
in,
green through the meseta?
yeah, we had dry. I mean, but it wasn't anything terrible. I mean, fresh water wasn't too much of a problem.
Great. Yeah. Great.
I took a bottle of water or a bottle, and then I would just buy another bottle when I thought, oops, this is going to be a long stretch.
Uh-huh.
I better buy some more water. And
Right.
the small villages had water, fountains that you could use,
Mhm.
and that was all.
Refill. Yeah. Good.
I had it in myself, and that's completely on my fault. I mean, completely. I did walk out of Burgos without enough water because I looked on the map and there were three stores just as you leave the city. And I'm like, okay, great, I'll buy water there. Closed,
All closed.
all three,
Shoot.
at least one of them forever. And I'm like, uh-oh. And now I got to walk all the way back, or let's just see if the Camino does provide. And sure enough, out in the middle of this dry bone area,
Yeah.
there's a little creek in a little park and it had a water fountain.
That's something. I just love Spain. I love how they're set up. I love the infrastructure. I love how functional it all is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great trip, super rewarding. Met, I counted them, 27 countries, 9 states, I think.
Oh, that's really interesting. At a slow time, you met people from 27 countries and 9 states.
Yeah.
That's just phenomenal. Where else in the world can you have that experience?
Yeah. The diversity. I mean, there were a lot of young people. I mean, young
Mhm.
people and retired people, but let's face it, you know,
Yeah.
the young people were fascinating because they were there for the reasons they were there were so interesting.
Hmm. Why were the young people there? What were their reasons?
Varied as many as they are.
Okay. For example?
One young man who was very concerned about my British friend, he tagged me every day wanting to know where he was. Uh, as far as I could tell, he had lost a job. He was Eastern European. He lost a job, a position. So he's just kind of trying to find himself, and his wife was along too. So they were tagging each other. So yeah, that one was that. And a couple of Spanish ones. My son talked to one young man. He was from Madrid, and young, and so he was giving him 5 days off or a week off, and of course he's young, has not a lot of money. So
Hmm.
what do you do if you're young? You want to go on vacation, but you don't have a lot of money.
Walk the Camino. We can do that on 25 euros a day.
Yes, you can. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that was one phenomenon that, yeah. And
Okay.
you get a certificate too, I guess. So if you care to do
Yeah.
that, a lot of
Yeah.
them don't. They just have sections they do and pull out this card and yeah. And I met different gentleman from Britain, and he was walking from somewhere to Burgos, and they're going to spend a few days in Burgos. And he had his card, and he was on what I think was the 10-year plan.
Okay.
He was just doing a section, but he's spending as much time as he walked for a few days, then he spent as much time in Burgos as he probably walked.
Okay.
He's just doing little sections.
Such an interesting approach and made easier because they don't have the big international flight that we have. So they don't have to worry about jumping back and forth over the Atlantic and really making a big deal out of the travel. Same with Australians and New Zealand. That's a 24-hour in the air experience to get to Europe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really a nice way to do it. It also allows you to build in really enjoying where you are and getting to know the country. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, I do think the little section thing where you join, I mean, because to me, it's like I stayed at a little village somewhere. I don't remember.
A little village somewhere. That sounds like the Camino Francés right there.
Yeah, right. But they have a much, I think they would come away with a much clearer vision of that section
Hmm. Hmm.
as they did each section at a time.
Yeah.
Based on the chronology of my photographs, my photos, this is obviously before Leon.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's maybe could be. Yeah. I met a gal from, I think she was from the UK who was doing it in stages as well. And in talking with her, I could really get the sense that the first time you go, it's the first time and it's that first time excitement. The second time you go, you're like, I already know how to do this. So let's just go discover. And then by the third time, you're an expert. You totally know how to do the Camino. Totally know the routine, the rhythm, the packing, the I got this all right. And then you just ease into it. So it's actually quite an attractive way to complete the Camino, I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah. We do it the way we do it.
yeah, just different ways you can do it and different ways you have to do it. And
Yeah. But you do it.
ultimately you do it.
Yeah. So if you had some advice for people considering walking the Camino or people who are definitely going to walk it for the first time, what advice would you give them?
Well, this is almost silly, but uh, I chased around trying to find hills to climb and wasted a lot of time doing that. And I would suggest to you get a treadmill, add incline speed and backpack weight. And then at some point, based upon the calf injuries in the Pyrenees I saw, turn around.
Can you go downhill on a treadmill?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Better be careful.
Well, yeah, you would have to be very careful.
Might want to decrease your speed, but that'll help you protect your calf muscles.
Right, 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 right.
So that would one piece of just physicality. The other is it's going to be different than you expect.
Mm.
My advice is it's going to be different than you expect. Embrace those differences. And
Mm.
when it gets difficult, just go find the man with no feet. He's right there in front of you.
Okay.
Your fellow pilgrims are pretty amazing people, and the Spaniards will help you.
Okay.
They are there to help you. They love to help.
What makes the people around you so special?
Mhm.
You said the other pilgrims are pretty amazing people. Why do you say that?
They're willing to do this. It's not easy. I mean, walking 15 kilometers, as you and I know, is not that big a deal. I mean, you can do that. But doing it for 43 days is a little different.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It is.
And learning to wash your clothes every day, you know.
Yeah. It really takes something, doesn't it, to stay on the trail and stay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other tips or advice you'd give first time pilgrims?
Yeah, I'm hesitating here, Nancy. I went in July, so I didn't have to worry about accommodations, much less, I mean, to any degree whatsoever.
Yeah.
But do let it kind of unfold for you. Be willing to be surprised by some of the things that come up. You'll be shocked by the greatness of the Spanish people, I think, and their ability to help and anticipate, whether it's a donativo that is serving some of the best fresh food you've had in a long time, or the best coffee. Had the best coffee on the trail was out of a donativo coffee
That's
pot.
something.
Or the older gentleman in Paploma that starts yelling at me, pound, Peregrino, because I'm on the wrong side of the street. He starts yelling at me, but only in a friendly, gruff sort of way.
And probably saved you from going off the wrong direction.
That's correct. He did.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had not crossed the street like he told me to do, I would have gotten lost.
Okay. It's such a reminder. It is in nobody's best interest for a pilgrim to get off the trail. Not ours, not the local people's. They want us on the trail where we want to be.
Yeah. So it was all great. Watch the signage. It can get tricky.
Uh-huh.
take your time on the signs, not just because I fell, but further on, like in Burgos, I take a picture of this, of the sign, the arrow. It is on a lamppost about that big.
How big is that big for my listeners? So it's like 8 inches, right?
If you miss that, you're going along and you're in a city, so you just keep going.
Yeah, the cities are tricky. That's probably the trickiest navigation is through the cities, is in all of that busyness, making sure you spot those arrows. You've got to be quite diligent in the cities.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
do just embrace the whole experience, but it will be different than you expect. At least I hope so for you.
love that. Love that.
Yeah, it's great, and it gives you time to, no matter what, even if it's busy, there's so much space out there. I can't imagine it being so busy. I mean, I saw it at the last 100 kilometers where the tour groups would arrive and you just kind of let them cycle ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Let them go ahead.
Yeah, let them go ahead, give them some space,
Yeah.
but get your space so you can, spend some time reflecting if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for scenery, you certainly are going to be able to. It's up close and personal. It's right, you're right there. I mean, it's not just a sunflower. You can actually see the sunflowers turn as you walk.
It's incredible, right? To be that close to the world, to nature.
It's a lifetime event, I think, for me it was. But I don't know that when I was walking, I viewed it that way.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You didn't always see in the middle of it that this was a good thing.
Yeah, well, it was tough.
It was tough. Yeah.
But also, I think that for me, that it taught me that, man, things don't work out, but things move forward. You have to go forward. How you go forward is up to you.
Right. Roger, really great words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing those with us.
Thank you.
I think we can wrap it up. I think you hit it right there. Yeah. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Always good to hear from you.
Thanks. Thanks, Roger. I'll have you back when you go back and finish those other sections that you missed. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. And yeah, thanks again.
Thanks.